Huh, so far away, Lucas. What are we talking about today?
We're talking about the apparent best video games of all time.
Yes, we are. So far away, Lucas, as you often do, would you like to let the audience at home know what the topic of today's Wiki Weekend is?
Yeah, so we're going through the Wikipedia article of the list of video games considered the best.
And before we delve into that, Lucas, I'm going to ask you a question. And that question is, what do you consider to be the best video game of all time? And I'm going to clarify something here, not for Lucas, because I think you already know what I'm about to say, but for the audience at home. When I say the best video game of all time, I don't mean your favourite game, because that's what a lot of people think that question is, and that's the answer they'll give. It's like, what do you think is objectively the best video game? What video game do you think represents the medium the best and is the best example of what it can achieve? And in my opinion, there is only one correct answer to this question, and I'm curious if your answer is the same as mine.
Okay.
So what is your answer to that question?
I'm going to put my bets down on fucking Tetris.
Yes, that is the only answer. That is the correct answer to that question for now and always. Because whenever this discussion is had online, people always say, it's something like, I don't know, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Is that a contender for best video game of all time? It's like, no, it's a very good game. Is it better than Tetris?
And to clarify, that's actually potentially my favourite game of all time, and I still pick Tetris.
Because, like, Tetris is 50 years old, and Tetris is still relevant today. You put an 80-year-old and an 8-year-old, and you put them in front of Tetris, they'll know how to play it in 30 seconds. It doesn't need improving, even though it has been, like, multiple times over the years. It is the perfect game. It is, like, my opinion, like, the contender for greatest video game of all time, because of its simplicity. It is the prototypical video game example of easy to learn, difficult to master, because Tetris is one of those things that it continues to be relevant today, and people are continually clamoring to make more difficult versions of Tetris to test the depths of their skill, which is apparently infinite.
Well,
I've seen high-level Tetris.
Over the last couple of years, we've literally had, like, Puyo Puyo Tetris, Tetris Effect, and Tetris 99, and everybody has been, like, in love with those games.
Because Tetris is awesome, and, like, that's my opinion, like, what is the best video game of all time, because every year when, like, new games come out, it's like, oh, is this new video game a contender for best video game of all time? The answer is, no, it's not. Give it 50 years and see if people still talk about it, then we can have that discussion, because Tetris is still fucking popular today. Anyway, without further ado, let's delve into the list on Wikipedia, a link to which you can find below. And we'll start with a brief descriptor from Wikipedia what this article is about. It says here, this is a list of video games that have consistently been considered the best of all time by video game journalists and critics. The games listed here are included on at least 6 separate best/greatest of all time lists from different publications. While any single publication's list reflects the personal opinions of its writers, when the lists are taken in aggregate, a handful of notable games have achieved something approaching critical consensus by multiple appearances in such lists. So basically, these are games that have consistently been put forward as some of the greatest video games of all time by critics and gaming publications. And without further ado, the first game on this list, 1972, Pong. Yep, strong contender. No arguments from me there, Lucas. How about you?
Nope.
Pong.
Yep. Pong.
And I know that the thing someone's going to say is, well, Pong's not an original game. It's based on Tennis for Two. And others, like, and there's earlier versions of Pong. No, Pong, fucking perfect. It's, again, the Tetris argument, it's simplicity. You put 2 people down who never played video games before in front of a game of Pong, they'll be able to play Pong.
Yeah.
Another contender for the crown, Space Invaders. Again, like, just the games from that era, just simple, easy, classic. You can't, like, I don't know anyone who'd ever argue that Space Invaders is not a good game, except for someone being a contrarian shitbird.
Yeah.
So it's the only time you ever see people say stuff like those old classics aren't great. Like, people might say they might not hold up very well, but I could say they do, because they have, like, one input method and it's left and right, and then shoot. It's really hard to mess that up.
I think a lot of older games that don't hold up are the ones that try to do too many things. When it's something like Space Invaders or Pong or Tetris, they just decided we're going to do this one thing very well.
Yeah, and they do it excellently to the point where you basically can't improve upon it. You can only just add more things to it, as evidenced by, like, was it the Space Invaders game for the Xbox 360? where like
my
you've
God.
got a gun and you're shooting enemies in an alleyway. It really is. It is akin to reinventing the wheel. It's like this thing works fine. You can just play the original. Anyway, and we're just going to skip through a few quite quickly now because I don't think me and you have got much to say about a lot of the games listed here, other than that makes sense.
Well, a lot of these games so far are like, but from before we were born, so a lot of it's just going to be, yeah, these are good games.
And also as well, they're classics, and even if, as we said, they don't really hold up today, the fact that they were the first thing, or first notable thing to do what they did, and the groundwork they set for other games is undeniable, so they deserve that place just for the legacy that has like spawned from them. So on our journey to 1985, we passed by games like Pac-Man, Defender, Donkey Kong, Galaga, Joust, Pitfall, Tetris, as we mentioned, like, again, just all fucking classics of the medium. All of which do deserve to be put on lists that are like best video games of all time because they are video games at their core. It's fun. It's fun. It's entertainment. It is a worthwhile waste of your time, and every single one of those games adheres to that. But getting to the first game on the list that I think me and you might have something to talk about, and that is in 1985, Super Mario Bros.
Well, that's the one, isn't it?
It is. I contend if it wasn't Tetris, it'd be Super Mario Bros. And I say this based purely on the first screen of Mario Bros. A picture of which is no doubt behind me right now. And if people have not seen Shigeru Miyamoto break this down, I implore you to go try and track down the interview where he does that. Where this opening screen right here is arguably the greatest tutorial ever put into a video game. Because you don't think it's a tutorial. So you look at it and go, no, that's just the first screen of Mario. And Lucas, you're like, I'm sure you can explain this better than I can because you're the person who told me about it. So would you like to explain why that opening screen is a really good tutorial and it teaches you everything you need to know?
Yeah, so to properly butcher what Miyamoto has said in the past, is essentially, well, what you're going to do first, you can like move left or right, you move left, you don't progress. You move right, the screen starts scrolling. So you know you move from left to right. The first thing you do is if you walk right, you'll walk directly into a Goomba that will kill you, letting you know that you can't walk into those enemies. So then the next thing you do will be to walk right and jump, and they place the block just at the exact point where if you hold forward and press jump on top of the Goomba, you will punch the block above Mario and drop back down.
Yeah, releasing the mushroom.
Releasing the mushroom, which will then go across the screen and will bounce back against the pipe, making it almost impossible to avoid getting the mushroom, therefore letting you know about power-ups in the game.
Yeah, so in the space of about 150 pixels and 3 seconds of game time, you have taught the player literally everything they need to know to play Mario. And that's incredible. Like, that is like, it's perfect. And to see him break it down, it's like, it's so simple. And you never think about it until it's pointed out. It teaches you to jump, it teaches you to avoid enemies, it teaches you about power-ups, teaches you to avoid things, teaches you which way you go. Everything with no words, just actions. So it translates across all boundaries of culture and language because anyone can pick it up and play.
It's just insane.
It is, it's great. And obviously like, it defined a genre of video games that continues to be relevant to this day, the platformer. So we'll skip ahead to the year afterwards. Lucas, Legend of Zelda.
Hell,
I'm guessing you've got a lot to say about this one.
Yeah, Legend of Zelda is my favourite game series of all time. And I will say, like, this game is that weird thing of it's just impossible to the point where, like, I needed a guide to get through this. Because that was kind of the point, is you go on an adventure and you find out secrets from, like, magazines or talking to your friends on the playground, and that was the concept behind the game. Is you're not really meant to beat it yourself, but the level of freedom and exploration it gave you at the time was just unfounded.
Yeah, and there were probably like earlier games that like handled that concept or introduced that concept, but like Legend of Zelda is the one that's most memorable because it did it the best.
Yes.
At the time, at least, anyway. And like that is a series that continues to this day, and it's your favourite series. So we're going to skip forward a couple more years now and go into the 90s. And Lucas, would you like to pick a year from the 90s? And I'll pick one of the games from that.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll just go with the year I was born, like revealing my age to people. 1992.
1992. Okay, so we've got a couple of games here. And I'm going to pick out Mortal Kombat. And I love Mortal Kombat, and I'm probably going to piss some people off by saying this, but I think Mortal Kombat might be the most recognisable fighting game of all time. Because I had this conversation the other day with a friend, like, no, it's Street Fighter. Street Fighter's like the one everyone knows. Like, no, that's the one people who play games now.
Yeah.
Everyone who plays games knows Street Fighter, but I contend that Scorpion and Sub-Zero are way more recognizable to like lay people who just don't play games.
If I know much about like video games and kind of articles and stuff, it's that Mortal Kombat just does better on like any website than any other fighting game. Like the hype around Mortal Kombat as a fighting game and just the popularity of it is insane.
Oh yeah, because it's just the one that looks like really visually impressive, and it's really, oh, you watch it and you see like, you know, the X-rays and the fatalities, and it continues to be like, you know, a success stage to the point like Rambo's in the game now. He's basically just slamming action figures together, the video game. It's just like the adult version of Smash Bros. Like Smash
It is
Bros,
becoming
like,
adult Smash Bros, yeah.
because it's what RoboCop, Terminator, Rambo. And then in the other games, you've got like Jason Voorhees fighting Leatherface, fighting the Predator. It's like, this is fucking awesome. How can anyone hate that? And we're going to jump forward once again, Lucas, to 1998, which for people who don't know, is often considered one of the greatest years in gaming ever. And Lucas, would you agree with that statement?
Most definitely. And I think like just the snippet of games that this list gives just kind of encapsulates why 1998 is seen as such a landmark year in video games.
Yeah, because already I'm seeing Metal Gear Solid, Resident Evil 2, Soul Calibur, StarCraft, fucking StarCraft, the game that like got esports started, Grim Fandango, and Fallout 2.
Well, Karl, you missed quite a big one in that.
I did, yeah, because that's the one you want to mention.
Yes, it is. And of course that is Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, and Lucas, I don't even think we need to like, do you think Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time is a good game?
Well, it's been considered by many to this day as the greatest game ever made, so maybe.
Wasn't it great though when we were on stream the other day and that guy came in and went, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time is overrated, and you're like, fuck you. What a fucking idiot.
The spiciest of takes.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, like, my personality is being contrarian. I spend my time on Reddit. It's like, you know, quote from that guy, fucking hell. So let's skip forward, right, and jump into the 2000s, shall we, Lucas? And let's go for just the start of the millennium itself. And already, Lucas, I'm seeing a game I want to talk about, and that is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2.
Oh, number
which is
2
where
as
they
well.
perfected the format. It's the best Tony Hawk's game, fuck you, don't at me. Anyway, let's continue, and we're going to jump straight to the year afterwards, 2001, because I've just seen what's on this list, and holy shit, Lucas, 2001, we've got what might be my favourite video game of all time, Final Fantasy X. We've also got Grand Theft Auto 3, Halo Combat Evolved, Metal Gear Solid 2, Silent Hill 2, and Super Smash Bros. Melee.
So an alright year.
They're not bad year. Not bad. Also, fucking hell, Smash Bros. Melee is exactly as old as Final Fantasy X.
Isn't that weird?
That is so weird, 'cause I think of Smash Bros. Being so much older. So we got to jump forward. Let's pick a year from 2000.
Oh god, 2007 is considered a pretty great one.
Right, 2007. Okay, so with that we've got, oh god, Lucas. Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare, and Halo 3 came out that year.
Yeah, that was the year I got the 360 for Christmas with just those 2 games and didn't need anything fucking else.
Like, as Modern Warfare, as much as like the series is maligned now, was fucking incredible. But I still think though it sucks, based on the fact that every first-person shooter released after Modern Warfare put kill streaks in.
Yeah, it kind of spent the next 10 years just ruining other multiplayer games.
Because every other game wanted to be Call of Duty. It's like, for fuck's sake, it didn't have to be Call of Duty. Right, so we're now going to jump into the 2010s, Lucas. Now I want you to pick a year, the 2010s, and that's when we'll end.
Well, I just scrolled down this list and it's like, as soon as we get to like 2013, the list kind of gives up. So I'm just going to say, let's go to the last year on this that has like any amount of meat on the bones, and that is 2011.
Okay, so 2011, oh god, so we've got Batman Arkham City, Skyrim, Minecraft, Dark Souls, and Portal 2. Not a lot of games in there that I like, personally. Like Skyrim, I'm a big fan of Skyrim, but the other 4, not really for me. So probably like, you know, people don't like me now because I've said I don't like Dark Souls. I appreciate Dark Souls, like from afar. I'm just not a fan of like, you know, the core gameplay loop, which is all that series is. And every game that has like been released trying to emulate and ape it. I don't like those either because I don't get it. It's not for me.
No, and it's probably the most recent game to have kind of made a new genre in the sense of people calling it a Souls-like.
Yeah, or Soulsborne game.
Yes.
I just don't get it. I appreciate it. It's like they're very pretty games. Like some of them at least. Like the world building's really good. Like the lore is
For sure,
incredible. The design of the characters, the weapons. But when I just see the swing of the sword, and it takes like you've got to apply for planning permission before you're allowed to swing your sword. And then when I played the game and realised the optimum way to beat every single boss is run around in a circle and just hit it, like spam R1.
Yeah.
Because I remember like playing Bloodborne, and everyone's like, oh man, this game's so good because it has all these cool and interesting weapons. It's like, but you don't have time to swing any of them or do any of these cool moves. The best thing to do in every situation is just spam R1 as quickly as possible.
And I think, especially when it comes to like you with that game, I understand why you don't like it. And it's not for me either personally, but when your favourite games are among like Devil May Cry and Bayonetta and a lot of character action games that are super fast, it's like, I get it.
Yeah. And I put my hands on Dark Souls and it goes, okay, so what's the best thing? Can I do cool combos? You can, but you're going to get punished every single time. And in fact, like pro players will make fun of you for doing that. Yeah, like not a bad list. But like, the ones that crack me up though is when we get into the 2000s, you can tell people stop giving a shit. So when you're in the 1980s, it's like, yeah, what game deserves to be the best game? It's like fucking Pong. And nothing else is on that list. And you get to like 2016, and it's got like Overwatch on there. And it's like, isn't that a bit premature? It's got one of the best games of all time when it's been out for a year.
Well, yeah, that's the thing is, that's why this list gets very slim towards like the 2010s, because it's very hard to, even for example, my potentially favorite game of all time, Breath of the Wild. So the reason I say potentially is because I want to let that game sit with me for like 5-10 years before I definitively sit down and go, yeah, this is like as good as I claim it to be in my head.
Yeah, and that's why like my favourite game, Final Fantasy X, I replay it every single year and I still think it holds up, at least to me. Like, in terms of like, you know, the resonance it has with me. So I can say like, that is one of my favourite games because I can still play it to this day and have the same enjoyment I had with it. I don't think the same thing could be said of like some of the other games listed from like the 2010s, like Skyrim. It was a very, very good game when it came out. Like 10 years later, it's still relevant because they keep re-releasing it. I don't think in 20 years' time people are still going to be talking about Skyrim because the next game after it will be out and that will be what people talk about instead.
Well, like a lot of people still talk about Oblivion and Morrowind, but it's fair to say that in terms of like going back and playing those games, even Skyrim feels pretty rough nowadays.
Whereas you look at something like Tetris, it's perfect, still holds up. So that's why it's the only correct answer. Fucking Tetris.